Good evening and a warm welcome to InBody's webinar on body composition analysis and its application in critical care. My name is Dietitian Ankita Ghag. I am a clinical dietitian with InBody India. I will be taking you throughout this presentation. We are going to cover these things in our entire presentation today. Why do we need body composition analysis in intense care units? We know those people are having malnourishment. They are critically ill patients. We do have various nutritional assessment scores like SGS scores, MUST, Nutritional Assessment Screening 2002. We have all these screening tools. Then why body composition analysis? There are various reasons why we need it. Firstly, to understand what are the changes taking place inside our body. For example, this is a CT scan image of an ICU patient whose BMI is 17.5, 25 and 38 respectively. When we see these patients, we see these people are lacking their muscle mass. But if we see first person, that is the BMI of 17.5, this person is having very little adipose tissues. That means there is severe depletion of adipose tissues and severe depletion of muscle mass as well. Patient B, that is BMI of 25, he is overweight patient. And patient C is severely overweight patient. These people are having huge amount of adipose tissues and visceral fat, and they are also having intramuscular fat. That means their muscle quality is already been deteriorated and very little muscle mass. So that means these people are undergoing wasting and they are also having cachexia. Body weight, BMI, changes in the weight, food intake, these are the variables which can be misleading because there is increased amount of water, there is cachexia taking place. So just by BMI or body weight we don't understand that. BIA is helping us to assess sarcopenia, fluid balance and adiposity in the individuals, wherein we come to know whether they are depleting their muscle mass, fat mass or their visceral fat area. Now that we know there are various benefits of having body composition analysis in the ICUs, we need to know what is the benefit of this BIA technology, that is bioelectrical impedance analysis technology, from which we get our body composition analysis. Firstly, the technology is very inexpensive as compared to DEXA scans. There is no radiation exposure. It can be accessible. It can be done along the patient's bedside as we can see out here. And what parameters do we get are here in the screen. Let's understand what is BIA technology, that is bioelectrical impedance analysis technology.
The human body is composed of four main components: water, fat, protein, and minerals. Having a moderate amount of each component is important for a healthy life, and the BIA is considered as one of the most practical methods to know. BIA, bioelectrical impedance analysis. This method applies small currents throughout the body and measures the voltage to get a value called resistance, also known as impedance. The principle behind BIA is to flow electrical currents throughout the water in the body and to measure the amount of resistance the current encounters as it travels. Simply, more water will lead to lower impedance. For example, although the two men weigh the same, A has a higher amount of muscle mass than B. Since muscle cells hold more water than fat cells, electrical currents can more easily flow through A and will show a relatively smaller impedance value than B. And with this impedance data, the volume of a person's total body water is determined. So then, how did this technology come about? In 1969, an experiment was carried out to find the correlation between whole body impedance and volume of total body water. The study proved that the impedance index, height squared divided by impedance, had the highest correlation with total body water. This index is considered as the starting foundation of BIA devices. 10 years later, an American company commercialized the first impedance meter. This meter used a single frequency of 50 kHz and measured the body's impedance. Due to its simplicity and convenience, this BIA device sought attention from many researchers. However, as more researchers started using the device, they soon became skeptical of its accuracy. The device's claim to produce whole body results actually only tested the right half, and their use of a single low frequency inaccurately measured the whole body impedance. In order to compensate for its inaccuracy, scientists developed equations using empirical estimations such as age and gender. However, the equations were only specific to their test groups, and with so many additional factors to account for, no equations were applicable to all. After years of developing additional equations and incorporating empirical estimations, scholars concluded that technological improvements, rather than equations and estimations, were required to overcome its inaccuracy. BIA required technology that can provide segmental impedance and body water compartment measurements using a multi-frequency method. Then in 1996, the InBody, a body composition analyzer that took into account the limitations of conventional BIA devices, was introduced. This technology included segmental measurement, use of multi-frequency analysis, and an 8-point electrode system. With these advancements and without the use of empirical estimations, the InBody achieved 98% correlation with DEXA and an impressive reproducibility of 99%. Prior to these advancements, the conventional BIA method considered the human body as one cylinder and only offered a single whole body impedance value. However, since impedance is derived from factors such as length and area, different sizes would yield drastically different impedance values. At a closer look, our body is not one, but 5 cylinders with different lengths and widths, and therefore, measurements should be segmentally analyzed. Furthermore, when it comes to the trunk, its short and wide cylindrical shape yields a very low impedance value. The trunk only accounts for around 5% of the whole body impedance, yet it is responsible for about 50% of the whole body mass, indicating that even a small change of 1 to 2 ohms in the trunk impedance value can significantly alter the whole body lean mass. Whenever it comes to the use of multi-frequency, low frequencies tend to flow outside the cell membrane, while higher frequencies flow through both inside and outside. The use of a single low frequency is incapable of determining the water inside the cell. However, with the multi-frequency method, it is possible to accurately measure the total body water. More importantly, this method distinguishes and reveals the balance between intracellular and extracellular water. After incorporating segmental measurement and multi-frequencies, an 8-point tactile electrode system was also adapted to enhance and maintain the reproducibility of the results. More specifically, the use of separate thumb electrodes consistently fixed the starting position regardless of the way the electrodes were held. Today, with these technologies, high accuracy is achieved, and factors such as age or gender are no longer required. As a result, BIA is considered as proven technology and is being widely used for many medical and research purposes, from sports medicine to nutritional management and many more. This device's accuracy, simplicity, and convenience have been validated and published in numerous renowned medical journals and studies worldwide.
Now that we know that we are going to obtain such kind of result sheet, we need to know which kind of parameters we need to focus on. Firstly, we need to look for the phase angle that will tell us the nutritional value of our cell. Then we need to look for extracellular water ratio that will tell us about the edema present inside the person. Skeletal muscle index and body cell mass, it will tell us about the sarcopenia status in the individuals who are admitted in ICU. Segmental lean analysis, it will again tell us about the sarcopenia. Dry weight will tell us about what is the actual amount of weight so we can plan our nutritional guidelines accordingly. We also need to monitor how is their progression. So we need to know what is the body composition history and how is the body water history. Let's understand how BIA technology, that is body composition analysis, will help us to assess sarcopenia. We all know that sarcopenia has been identified as a disease by WHO of lately, and sarcopenia can lead to various clinical and functional complications following the acute illness. As we can see in this diagram, there are a cascade of reactions leading to sarcopenia. For example, if the person is having malnutrition, he is prone for sarcopenia, or if he is sarcopenic, the malnourishment is present. Same goes with the other things which we can see on the slide currently. Sarcopenia is associated with most of the complications related to mortality. There was a study which was conducted wherein they found out the people who are sarcopenic died more frequently as compared to the people who are non-sarcopenic. So here it is, sarcopenia plays a major role in understanding the mortality of the person. Sarcopenia in BIA can be assessed very easily using SMI, that is skeletal muscle index. Skeletal muscle index is nothing but the appendicular skeletal muscle mass divided by height in meter square. Means when you do your test in segmental lean analysis, you get your right arm, right leg, left leg measurement separately. So you need to add those things and divide by height in meter square. And the normal ranges for males is 7 kg per meter square and for females it's 5.7 kg per meter square. Let's understand how phase angle will be helpful in assessing the severity of the condition in the patient. As we can see in the diagram out here, the phase angle is related to cell membrane integrity. Therefore, if the phase angle is on a lower side, that means there is a damage in the cell membrane which indicates about the prognosis chances of the patient. As we can see here in the diagram, if the cell is healthy, the phase angle will be on the higher side. If the cell is damaged, the phase angle will be on the lower side. The normal ranges for phase angle is 4 degree and above is normal, 2 to 4 degree is related to aging, and if it is less than 2 degree, that indicates the patient is really critical and mortality rate is on a higher side. For example, when we see this result sheet out here, the phase angle is 2.8. For this, the patient may be aging or the patient is deteriorating. In this current study, we can see that phase angle is highly correlated to understand the mortality rate of the critically ill patients. Also, they found out that it has got stronger correlation or stronger predictive power than the normal severity scoring systems which we have currently, which is commonly used in ICUs. This particular research states that phase angle and extracellular water was highly correlated when it came to understand the mortality of the patients. In this recent study, They related NSI score with phase angle, and they found out the phase angle was highly correlated with the current score, as we can see there in this diagram. Let's see some practical cases how phase angle has impacted and how it has been helpful. For example, in this case, the patient was 145 centimeters, 45 kg, 82-year-old female. She had a esophageal cancer and there was a severe edema observed in the beginning. Out here we can see the edema, but she was improving gradually. So that's how we could come to know with the help of her phase angle. We could monitor her phase angle and we saw that phase angle was improving day by day. This patient was 77-year-old woman, 145 centimeter in height and 46.2 kgs weight. She was posted for a surgery. Can you see her phase angle is really low, and also her water levels were very fluctuating on the higher side. She was in the surgery room, but somehow the complications developed, so she was again transferred back to an emergency room. There she expired because of sepsis. How can ECW ratio help in evaluating the fluid balance? Patient with higher fluid retention has got a higher mortality as compared to the people who are having normal fluid level. Also, in dialysis patients, we can see that the people who are having higher fluid retention are at risk of deaths because of CVD. Researchers state that fluid monitoring at an early stage of critical illness is essential for the management of the patient. Total body water is divided into two parts, extracellular water and intracellular water. The ratio between them should be 3:2. In healthy individual, this extracellular water ratio, that is extracellular water is to total body water ratio, should be 0.360 to 0.390. If it is above 0.390, which we can see out here in this particular case, then the person is having fluid retention. In this particular case study, we see the normal ECW ratio is 0.390, but here it's 0.400. That means there is mild water retention. In case 1, where the extracellular water has enlarged, that means the person is having either a heart failure or CVD, a renal disorder, or it is resulted due to post surgery. But in case 2, here we see depletion of intracellular water, which indicates malnourishment, aging, cachexia, which is more related to mortality. As we all know, the major problem in critically ill patients is deep vein thrombosis. How segmental extracellular water will help us to assess this deep vein thrombosis? Let's understand. We all know if the person is constantly bedridden, there are high chances of developing blood clots in the vein. So, that condition is known as deep vein thrombosis. To identify that deep vein thrombosis, what we usually do is a color Doppler test, but extracellular water ratio helps to identify DVT within no time, that is hardly 90 seconds. Identifying DVT with the ECW ratio is very much easy. As you can see here, the 63-year-old patient in ICU, can you see his right leg and left leg? The difference between the right leg and left leg. The possible chances why there is higher ECW ratio in left leg is because the person is having DVT. Same goes with the 55-year-old patient. Here the patient's right leg is having more amount of extracellular water. This is a case of 63-year-old male whose height was 170 centimeter and 68.2 kg weight. The person had swelling in his lower leg for prolonged period. On the test, we found out there are chances of having DVT in his left leg. On doing the further investigation, that is ultrasound, they found out there was a DVT present in his left leg, and then patient underwent surgery and the clots were removed. If there is a generalized edema where ECW ratio is above 0.390, that can be because of any chronic illness like CKD, CVDs, CLD or ALD, or endocrine dysfunctioning. If there is localized edema at one side or both the side, The difference between both the sides should be 0.007. If it is at one side, then there are chances of skeletal-muscular injury or skeletal muscle diseases. The site is higher than the opposite site. That means there is some circulatory disorders, there is vascular edema or lymphedema or injury or skeletal-muscular disease which can be acute. If there is localized edema at both the limbs, then there are chances of poor nutritional status, lack of muscles or paralysis. If both the sides are normal, that means there is chronic venous insufficiency or the edema is idiopathic. How combination of lean mass and extracellular water will help us? The combination of lean mass and extracellular water will tell us about the muscle quality. If muscles are decreasing and extracellular water is increasing, that means the muscle quality is deteriorating. This we will understand by monitoring the body composition history. If muscle mass is increasing and extracellular water is decreasing, that means there is increase in the muscle mass, which is a good sign. If muscle mass is decreasing, at the same time extracellular water is decreasing, that means the patient is coming out of fluid overload. If muscle mass is increasing and extracellular water is also increasing, that means the patient is going towards the fluid overload, which is a bad sign. Therefore, it is very essential to have a look on the water ratio as well, if the muscle is increasing and extracellular water is increasing or not. That will help us to understand whether the person's muscle quality is improving or deteriorating. Before conducting any kind of test, we know there are certain precautions which are need to be maintained and followed. So here are certain precautionary steps which we need to follow before doing body composition analysis of critically ill patient. Make sure there is no electrical device attached to the patient such as pacemaker. Do not eat or feed the patient before the measurement. That's because when you feed the patient, there will be a amount of total body water present inside the body, which will result in overestimation of muscle mass. It's advised not to perform any physiotherapeutic activities to the patient who is admitted. The only reason why is it will enhance the muscle content and it will overestimate the skeletal muscle mass. Do not take the test after bath or shower given to the patient. That's because the body temperature will be changing. If the body becomes warm, there will be vasodilation, and cold, it will be vasoconstriction. So it's advised to do it on a normal room temperature before having a bath or a shower. It's always advised to do a test after the stools are passed and the urination is done, because BIA device won't be differentiating between fecal matter and urine. It will calculate it as a fat mass. Therefore, the results which we get will be inappropriate. The test should be done before the midday. That means once the patient have passed the bowels movement and the urine, that's the ideal time before feeding. The test should be conducted. As said before, it should be done at normal room temperature because of vasodilation and vasoconstriction. It is very important to maintain the posture of the patient. So, since the patient is critically ill, the patient will be in the lying posture. So, test can be done at that time. Make sure the bed is not wet because it will hamper the BIA current. Also, it is necessary that you shouldn't be touching the body of the patient while doing the test, because it will again disrupt the currents and the results which will be obtained will be inappropriate. To sum it up, assessment in a nutshell. The purpose of doing BCA in critically ill patient is first to understand their severity, that's their mortality rate and malnourishment with the help of phase angle. Coming down to body water balance, it will again help us to understand the mortality rate, recovery and the complications, because we saw in the quality of muscles how can we identify it. Screening of DVT is much more essential in critically ill patients. Nutritional assessment is very easy with the help of lean mass, fat mass and phase angle. Thank you for being with us on this webinar. If you have doubts regarding InBody, you can drop us an email at india@inbody.com. If you have got any doubts or any queries, you can also ping us on Instagram or Facebook. Our ID is InBody India. I will be online again right now to sort out all your queries. Thank you.